Okay, you guys, so this is the interviews portion of the show. And some people gave me some questions, and I have a couple of my own. And we're only going to talk for about 10, 12 minutes, and then Eric's going to come up and sing again, and we'll be done. So I'm going to start off with Swil. I was going to get it right again. I got it right once. Okay, here we go. My sister, Monica Lee, was a student of the violin. I feel that the entire household suffered while she gained in ability. Why the violin? You kind of talked about that. How does it speak to you? And someone earlier is 33 and learning to play the violin, and he goes, how do I become a magical violin player like you? That's Valerie. Valerie, can you wave? There she is. So why violin? You kind of shared that earlier, but how does she become a magic violin player?
Yeah, make sure your parents aren't home very often. The thing about the violin is that it is this close to your heart. So the key to the violin and playing it magically, or taking it to that, from the learning stage to who you are coming through, is to really recognize that you're not really playing the violin, that it is you. So attach an identity to the music. And so when you can say to yourself, look in the mirror and say, I am a violinist, when you do that and you own it, when you share that gift with people, then it becomes magical. So have it be a part of your identity. Does that answer your question?
I like that.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Taffy. Question for me, and I'm mixing it with a question from someone who didn't identify themselves. But next exit, Beautiful Life. The title begs the question, what was the exit before Beautiful Life? And someone out there wants to know, where would you like to play next?
Oh. Yeah, well, the exit before Beautiful Life is what my play is about. And it was on the freeway of life, being buoyed around by the outer circumstances and being swayed without any internal guidance or any attachment to my internal guidance. And where would I like to play next? Well, yeah, you mean do the play next? Oh, yeah.
Was that your question? Whose question was that? Who wants to, was it yours? Nobody wants to identify themselves? Whose question was that?
I want to play everywhere and anywhere. And everywhere and anywhere all of the time.
Okay.
And I also like to play in other places other than on stage.
Alrighty then. That sounds like some of Eric's songs.
Yeah.
All right. Swil Kanim. Identity seems to be a central figure in your work. Mm-hmm. When we first performed at Seattle Poetry Festival, Richard Marshall was on the marquee. Mm-hmm. If it's at all possible, can you speak to the issue of identity? And someone out there wants to know, and they didn't identify themselves, what does the violin allow you to say that words alone cannot? And I imagine that might have something to do with identity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Identity... there have been many times when people have said to me, Swil Kanim, that's an unusual name, and where's that from? But then they'll ask me, so what's your real name? And Swil Kanim, yeah. Do you get that as Taffy?
Yeah.
So in the conversation, what is real? In the native, or at least I don't know about all natives, but in our tradition, your real name is what people call you. If they call you Pee-wee, then that's your real name, which was my nickname on the res before. It was Pee-wee, because I couldn't say Sweet Pea, because I looked like Sweet Pea on Popeye, right? So that was my real name. It's what people actually call me. So if you think about what relationship is, identity is powerful in that when you share who you really are, you are passing your identity on, which is what passion is. Pass, I, on. So when you are really willing to share who you really are, and I know so many of my white friends have come up to, yeah, I have white friends. So many of my, yeah, and my wife. So many of my white friends have said things like, I wish I had a people. I wish I had a culture. I wish I had all, whatever it is. And the reality is that if you go back far enough, every single culture in America is Aboriginal. If you go back far enough, every single culture, from the Irish, English, every European culture at some point had an Aboriginal culture. And if we stop trying to take Native cultures and really recognize who you already are, which I believe is what most white people, when they want to be Indians, are really missing the boat. They just got to be who they are.
It's not white, okay? It's European American.
Oh, yeah. And I'm Native American. No, I'm Indian. My uncle said, I'm tired of changing who I am for everybody, so I'm going to be an Indian. And so if he's an Indian, I'm an Indian.
Okay. This is a question about identity, too. And it's interesting, the resonance happening in the audience. This is for you, Taffy. I wrote earlier today, the play is humorous, and you guys, this is just an excerpt of a much longer play, which is fabulous. So if Taffy has a sign-in sheet, and if you fill it out, she'll tell you the next time you can see the play. But the play is humorous, but it also is the kind of funny that hurts because it's real, speaking to love, pain, and loss. As a writer, how does the actress who wants a specific audience reaction and the spiritual practitioner who has loftier goals compete for space on the page, or do they? And it's interesting because someone out there wrote, how do you synthesize being religious with the acting community?
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
And who was the person who wrote that? Do they want to identify themselves? Okay. All right.
What a beautiful set of questions. You were such a good writer, Monica. You know, it's really interesting because the writing process, particularly of this play, because it's autobiographical, was very difficult. Very difficult. And it took me at least 4 years because of the revelation and because of being afraid of what you would think. You know, particularly what you black people would think. No, seriously, more so than the other people. I mean, we're bringing up race now. Let's just go there.
Okay, are you guys a part of some militant group with that?
So, yeah, I just had to get out of my own way and allow the process to inform what the play was, you know, and to let go of the shame and even bring the shame into it. And as far as the other thing, what was the other one?
Well, it's about synthesizing being religious with the acting community.
Oh, huh.
Or is it all connected?
You know what? No, I had an amazing teacher. I had many amazing acting teachers. And one would always pound into us, it's about the work. If it's not about the work, then you guys need to not do anything. And he was a working actor, had been since he was a kid. And I didn't get it. You know, I had to actually step away from acting and go into my spiritual path, you know, and let it go in order to come back and to synthesize all of it together. And I'm still working on that. I mean, I really am. I still work on the identity and the, you know, the little pieces of who I am. It's a process. I love those questions.
Okay. One more question. And I would like any of the artists who performed tonight, if you want to chime in. One person wants to be a public speaker who wrote in and just said, any advice? So anyone, any of our performers, including the two on stage, do you have any advice for someone who wants to become, to speak and perform in public?
I would say tune in to who is calling you to the stage. Go within in your meditation and your spiritual time and tap into the collective consciousness. Who is your audience? That will get you on the stage, and then you're outside of yourself, and you are being a participant along the path.
Swil Kanim?
I would say that for public speaking, one of the biggest obstacles I came across was my perception of what I was risking. And the reality is, for me, is that it's a greater risk to hold back. And that was a real powerful understanding that happened through lots of therapy. So if you're going to be a public speaker, I would recommend lots of therapy.
Okay. Gil, Eric, or Tahani, any public speaking advice? You want to chime in from where you're at?
I would just say one thing, hearing a lot of poetry and a lot of people speaking revolution, but not really doing much of it. Just make sure, if you really want to be a public speaker, is to let the message be more important than the messenger, and not really worry about what other people think about you. That's one thing that I had to struggle with too, especially when you're doing cross-cultural type of work. What are your people, quote unquote, are going to think of you? But if you let the message be more important than the messenger, then the passion is going to grab you instead of you trying to find your passion.
Beautiful. Eric, or no? Tahani? Oh, Eric first, and then Tahani.
I find it interesting that you say it that way, because what they said is, I want to be a public speaker, not I want to talk about X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So, a lot of people come from that,
Right.
and I think I'm a ham. I'm a Jewish ham, is why I hate myself. So I came to a message after I came to the instinct to be on the stage.
Right.
So just get up there and realize you're stronger than everybody who's watching you, because you're the one on the stage.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, going back to identity, what you're talking about, he or she, says, I want to be a public speaker. But instead of, I feel like just identifying that one thing, you're limiting yourself. Know that you're not a public speaker, you're not a writer, you're a singer, everything that you do is only an extension of what you are, which is so much more than how you define yourself. Mm-hmm. So art can only grow if you have that passion and you have that grounding within yourself. So just don't focus on, I want to do this, focus on who you are and just expand from there. I mean, you're not just one thing. Just realize that everything you do is only an extension of the self, which is so much more than you think it is.
Beautiful. Aren't they fabulous? You guys, and you were fabulous too for your questions.